afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast news bit with more, well, patch news. This time I'm just going to look at it directly for once, I think. Just rather than just trying to remember it all, I think this is going to work out better. Let me know if you prefer just gameplay rolling, but we'll just sort of go through the bits here and there. So, rule 1.7. This update to the DP mod continues by tuning values using modified factions. So we're showing on the file changes up for the December balance update. As always, please subscribe to the balance, blah blah blah. So, tank and tactics. We find the 80 grenade assault is overperforming with a medium armor and heavy armor, so basically reloading the penetration and some stuff there. Pretty good. P2S, yeah. Deflection tends to be a really bad thing because allows us to quickly take out tanks, even bigger ones, and partly can make guard spam really effective because just all the deflection plus the higher rate of fire of the anti-tank rods can quickly allow them to do a lot of damage even those because the tanks can't respond sufficiently heavily there. So that makes sense. Wehrmacht light artillery barrage, partially revert of course from 90 to 100. Yeah. Ambush tactics. We found that 1 CP sprint came too early, was really difficult to counter at the stage of a match. So that's maybe, I don't know. I mean, encirclement had to, for ages, and that, didn't really cause any problems. So I can't help feel this just seems like, we're nerfing it because we can. But that's just me. We found that our previous recharge change was completely ineffective to balance the awesome doctrine early game. We instead delaying the first Osram squad to hit the field. This should give more players with tactical taking to 1. With Osram, we're going directly for tier 2. Reducing the cooldown. The problem with this is, essentially, you're going for the Osram because you want them out on the field first. So you can that way push ahead, slightly overcoming the Wehrmacht's early issue, which is you're usually behind an infantry compared to every other faction because they can build it right away. As a Wehrmacht, you have to build the infantry company, then build your grenadiers, meaning usually slower on the field. I mean, you can't quite get to all the good positions, meaning if they get to a good house, you're in trouble. The Osram are sort of, in that sense, good because they can allow you to get around and just get infantry up to the field fast. This basically really screws over one of the primary purposes of getting Osram in the first place. So I feel like this is a bad change. I get what they want. The problem is, like, Osram are meant to be good in the early moments and then sort of trying to consolidate. You have to get other infantry. They get crushed. But this, I don't know. I feel like this is not going to help Osram doctor. It might even, not kill it, but it's going to, do a lot of damage to it and really lower its popularity. So that might just be me, but I feel like this is just, I don't know. This is wrong. Recon support company, rate tactics, of course, also applies to mechanized company. Influence bonus change from multiplicative to additive. Now affects capture into capture rates for equal amounts. Fixing issue with the build not applies to certain light vehicles properly. Fair enough. Hold fire artist subs empty from firing. 50 cal now receives attack commands. We are making the ability in the cluster bombs. We're making the ability more consistent while adding one more warning time for the enemy player to escape. Yeah, fair enough. Dust from a high height. Scatter reduced. Still nasty ability. Certainly more effective than some of the, light artillery badges, to be honest. And then moving into mechanized, the M3 assault group to make the pricing of the bundle more attractive. We have replaced the vehicle of the M3 after with the assault squad. The ability originally came with separately, reducing the cost quite a bit. I don't know. Why the assault engineers then in the first place? If you're just going to make them part of the crew, you're still going to need someone to drive it. I don't know why. It just seems like a really weird change. Like, then you gotta get something else to drive it around. In which case, why not just go for the vehicle and just have the half track as a call-in? I mean, the half track usually gets so much going on with it, and it still leaves the 250 half track, leaving very sad. Assault engineers, pop cut reduced. Fair enough, I guess. VC1 military truck. We found the truck is too powerful and coming out due to its ability to carry rough and push enemy squads out to cover. Now it's a time cooldown of 60 seconds. Yeah, that makes more sense. In particular, now they also nerfed the Kublai, which is kind of where it's from one of the primary counters. We found the M21 half-tracks value for its cost was out of alignment. Barrels for attack scatter now matches for 250 81mm mortar, and also increased the reload time and decreased the health. Yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty good. It actually had the old stats of the old USF mortar, which was really busted. So this sort of puts them more in line there, making it cheaper than our infantry gun. Growing population, penetration reduced quite aggressively, increased scatter on that. That's fair enough, I guess. And then the assault package for the grenade is a bit cheaper. Hetzer, get some slight fixes there. Rocket barrage, slight changes there as well. Blitz and also affects 2 on medikits, or will reload sort of more specifically what the bonus is about. Flattening placement, slightly cheaper and also faster to build. Decent. Buying assault, increase the duration. That's quite potent considering it's actually a pretty good ability. That makes it reasonably good, in particular at its price level. And the bigger change is the Falchion Makers. They're basically changing him here to a paradrop ability with full 4-man squad plus cheaper reinforcement plus to get a conjunction with the airborne assault, which is also getting changed. Now it's no longer an airdrop. It's basically more like Colton 2 Stuka drops. But the key is then, doing this ability, the Falchion Makers can then sort of be reinforced where we have them. So that sort of creates an interesting bit. Overall, the Luftwaffe air support doctrine works, I think, reasonably well. Universal Carrier, repair speed of 75 pence in combat. Fair enough. Cost reverted in the Commander Smoke Grenade. And they've been made further cheaper. The Infiltration Commandos. So they're actually now cheaper than Falchion Makers. So they only come in as 3-man squad there. So I guess that makes sense. Tommy's reducing them change the shit actually to blow more offensiveness depend on cover to engage enemy squads effectively. So basically they are moving the in-cover bonus. They'll still retain the firepower bonus. And then they make them harder to hit anyways, but just out in the open, basically meaning you're still going to be largely encouraged to blow up as the British, it seems, to an extent. I'm not entirely sure, but just sort of the impression I get here, which again is not what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to be encouraging it. I mean, this kind of seems to be, again, allowing them to be more offensive and less dependent on cover. I mean, that's the problem. They are already pretty offensive and not dependent on cover. That's the problem with the infantry section. They're like just making them too good out of cover, which again is the main issue all along. They need to be easier to kill, which again they could sort of get away with if then buff the Wehrmacht late game and gave them more firepower, so they'll probably hurt the blobs. But they're not doing that now, are they? And overall, again, it seems like their final change is great, but the problem is they have ultimately not increased strategic diversity. Again, if you look throughout the changes, I mean, overall, the Wehrmacht late game has not been very well touched upon. I mean, Allies late game got more stuff. Their tanks got, better versus infantry versus the German ones. For the Austrian, maybe a bit, but even that's got, a lot of nerfs going along with it. Bun grenades got nerfs, so, I mean, it's just like they've been nerfing the Wehrmacht late game more than they're buffing it when the Wehrmacht late game desperately needed buffs. I mean, so far, I can't really say that. Well, this patch has certainly done some good things. It's made the orbital commands more viable. For the Wehrmacht, though, it's just not really changed anything. It's not given the Wehrmacht more strategic diversity as such. It's not made Tier 4 remotely more viable. It's just sort of slightly changed about things, but in fact with the Allies early game being stronger and their late game in some places also being stronger, they've actually just made the Wehrmacht late game even weaker and even more residual. So I mean, if they're planning a next patch of that, they really just have that one focus on fixing the Wehrmacht late game, because this is not really, much excusable. Again, not when they know their primary goals was, increasing strategic diversity. If we sort of find that, primary focus, revitalizing stuff. Yeah, there we go. We can see the goals. Improve strategic diversity and quality of life for making mine usage of redundant, unused and generalist units. Great. Except again, they've done nothing like that for the Wehrmacht. They have already nerfed them, these redundant under units and generalist units. That's the problem for the Wehrmacht. Again, they have nerfed them, not buffed them, not improved them, not improved the quality of life for any Wehrmacht player with these changes, and in fact only made it worse. So I mean, really, so far, if you sort of look at the goals, I mean, again, for the Wehrmacht, this has just been a complete mess. Again, none of these goals have been anywhere achieved except, of course, toning down the effectiveness of supposed elite Axis heavy tanks. Like the Panther was not an elite tank, and it's been only made less elite. Sure, it's gotten some slight improvements, but it's not enough to carry it out of the map, which is Wehrmacht Tier 4, which is still pretty much too weak. And again, tone down the squad wiping effectiveness, sure, but the Allies still get a ton of it. The Wehrmacht lost what feud had, and it really needs it, in particular for the late game. Again, Wehrmacht needs more firepower, and it's not getting it. In fact, they're losing it. So again, I mean, really, if I have to say, I mean, it really feels like they completely flat out on the face failed with their goals when it comes to the Wehrmacht. Again, the Wehrmacht, they just don't seem to know what the devil they want to do with it. Again, the answer's there, I would say, pretty clearly, but for some reason they keep just skirting around the issue, just getting in there and doing what bloody well needs to be done. So I mean, the Wehrmacht, I don't think it's going to massively benefit from this. It's going to maybe benefit from the Allied units being toned down a bit, somewhere here and there, maybe some slight improvements. Of course, the Austrian and some other bits might help the Wehrmacht out just a tad, but overall, I mean, for the Wehrmacht, this has been a weak patch like so many other patches. The Wehrmacht at this point is just seemingly relics whipping boy, and they just seem incredibly reluctant to just do what is needed, which is fix Wehrmacht Tier 4. Make it actually good. Give allies or the Axis some actual elite heavy tanks, because the Panther sure as hell isn't it. The Sturmpanzer isn't it. The Panzerwerfer sure as hell isn't anything remotely, you know, tank obviously, but not certainly elite either. Like, that's really the problem. There's nothing elite over Wehrmacht Tier 4, and so far the patch has utterly failed to give them that. Again, they've only made it worse. In fact, the Elephant, which is barely used in 1 versus 1 power, is going to be completely dropping off the map further. So it just, again, feels like the Wehrmacht at this point is just relics whipping boy, and they are just completely refusing to make it viable. So again, if they again say, oh, we're going to increase strategic diversity, I'm not going to believe it until I actually see it. And particularly, I'm not going to believe in anything they say about the Wehrmacht until I see actual bloody well results, because for the Wehrmacht, this patch has been utterly disgraceful. Even the commander changes are not going to particularly fix. Again, they're just going to help with the Wehrmacht again, you know, where again what they are basically right now, which is an early game faction. Like, they are not the late game faction. Tier 4 is dead. They have to be played like they are an early game faction, and these, you know, doctrinal changes will certainly help with that, though. By the way, they need to fix Storm Doctrine. Tactical movement is apparently gone and still redundant. But, like, you have to play for that, and of course the doctrinal changes will help for that, but, like, Wehrmacht late game is dead except for Tier 3 and the Tiger. Again, Tier 4 is dead, the Elephant dead. So, I mean, the Wehrmacht, again, as a faction, since sort of design level, is kind of half dead, because, again, its identity is still not there. So, I mean, again, if you're sort of looking at this, sort of closing on the final bits, again, it's not going to be particularly fun for the Wehrmacht. It's not all bad. Obviously, again, they got some slightly more viable doctrinal choices, but the core issue, which, again, Wehrmacht late game sucks, has not been remotely touched upon in any realistic or serious manner by them. It's pretty much all lip service, all, you know, smoke and mirrors, but no actual bloody results. So that's really sort of my opinion on the matter, and I doubt we're going to see any sort of serious changes to that now. So again, I'm definitely disappointed. Again, I can only describe the girls again when it comes to the Wehrmacht as a complete, utter failure. I mean, they did great with commando holds, sure, but, you know, in actual terms of doing something for the faction and its meeting issues with the late game, this has been a complete, utter failure. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe, like, share, comment. Of course, tell your friends, share all that. This is Imperial signing off, and see you all for another video in the future.